Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Lawrence and I'm a content producer here at Product Marketing Alliance. I'm delighted to welcome you all to this fantastic workshop today, the Playbook for B2B Customer Marketing and Advocacy at Scale. Just a couple of housekeeping points before we get started. Please ask all questions in the chat box during the session and keep yourselves on mute unless you're speaking or asking a question. We have a couple of polls running in today's session, so please do engage and share your thoughts. Please also note that we're also recording the session too. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to the host of today's workshop, Gal Baran, who is also the co-founder and CEO of Crowdvocate. Over to you, Gal.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. I know that a few more people are joining us, but so happy to have so many people here joining this session and attending. And while more people join the room, I'll share my screen and we'll start the session. So let me just share my screen for a second. Here we go. So today we're going to talk about a playbook for B2B customer marketing and advocacy at scale. I have both Bianca from D2L with us, and she's going to introduce herself in a moment, and Scott from HubSpot, and he's going to introduce himself as well. And we thank Product Marketing Alliance for having this workshop. This is great, and all of you for joining us. The session will be about an hour, and we'll talk through, Scott will talk about how to engage customers across their life cycle to leverage their journey and data for growth and loyalty. Bianca will touch rolling out a customer advocacy and customer marketing program globally also. And then I'll take us through streamlining referenceability at scale and creating programs that maximize references and becoming strategic in your organizations. Like I said, we have an hour for this. Every session will have Q&A, so we'll stop and have some questions, and we'll love to have as many questions as we can from you. If we don't have time to answer them all, don't worry, we'll follow up with an email with responses as well, so feel free to shoot in questions. We'll also run a poll. I guess before we start, maybe just a few introductions from the other speakers here. So just maybe Scott and Bianca, just say hi, and then we'll continue.
Hi, I'm Scott Wilder, and I head up community at HubSpot.
And hi, I'm Bianca Del Vecchio, and I manage D2L's Customer Advocacy Program.
Cool. So just a bit about Crowdvocate as we dive into the session itself. Crowdvocate is a customer marketing platform. It's a holistic approach to customer marketing, looking into engaging customers where they are, whether it's product, community, in-app, email, Slack, and whatnot, tracking their journey and activating them as part of their life cycle. So that's kind of a bit about us. It really is looking into different touch points within, customer marketing and product marketing. You want to do lifecycle engagement. You want to do program automation and different programs for different audiences, people who can be product champions, people who can be advocates, people who can be references, leaders, thought leaders in different cases, upselling to different customers. You want to be able to run loyalty programs of different parts and different scales in different countries, reference management and tracking of those activities, attribution and ROI, all that ideally in one platform. And that's what Crowdvocate is all about, really connecting all the dots together. Just so kind of you have a bit of more acquaintance to us. The way we do it is really connect to CRMs and then connect to all those touch points and engage customers in many different ways, channels, email, Slack, chat, whatnot. But, that's, I think, last thing about us is, like I said, it's all about being journey-based. We love the fact that customer marketing and I mean product marketing are aligning here, because product marketers think a lot about the product usage, the customer's journey with the product. Customer marketers think a lot about the rest of the customer engagement elements outside the product and how they can help product marketers with messaging and how they can help product marketers with champions and advocates. And then vice versa, product marketers should help customer marketers with understanding triggers and times that we want to reach out to customers. So there's a lot here of the working together, looking into a joint journey and creating those kind of customer experiences together. And I think Scott is going to talk about that. So I'll leave you with that for now. Last thing about us. So, I mean, we're really happy to be creating a community and the category of customer marketing. So we have monthly webinars. There's a Slack group that Alon from our marketing team is going to post here, and you can join, that is designated for customer marketers and advocacy managers, differing from the Slack group that PMA has. We have a job board, we have an expert zone, and there's really a lot of activities that we want to do for the community, and happy to support anybody, because customer marketing is new, how product marketing and customer marketing align is new, and we're definitely happy to help with building those. I think with that, I mean, we'll run a poll. The 10 people will also receive a reward, whether you can choose a book of your choice. There are some recommended books that we give in Audible, but you can choose others, or have a 1-hour consultancy. So please do answer that poll. And I think with that, we'll get started. So, one last thing. Tomorrow, the real event takes place, full day with PMA, Customer Marketing Summit. Please join. There's a lot of great content. My session tomorrow will be about all these people and all their thoughts. So I'm going to share what I've learned from all these people in different sessions, different webinars, and best practices we've seen across our journey. And with that, I'm going to shut up for now, and have, get back to our session today and give the wand to Scott, who's going to take you through his session. So I'll stop sharing. Take it away, Scott.
Okay, let me just get the right screen up here. I'm trying to share here, advanced sharing. For some reason, I'm not sharing here. Okay. For those folks, I apologize about this for some reason. There we go. Okay, so as I said in the beginning, I work at HubSpot and handle customer engagement and community, and I'll talk a little bit about why I frame it that way. But first, in terms of my background, I've done a lot of work early in my career in digital marketing and e-commerce, then went to Intuit and Marketo, and basically focused a lot on community there. But what I realized in 2016 is there was this trend that was happening around growth marketing and growth product. And so the way I've approached things is there was a fork at the road there. I said, okay, I'm going to focus on community, but I'm also going to focus on growth marketing. And in that journey, I basically realized that whether it's community or advocacy or any kind of engagement is really to think about how do you lead with the customer and how do you build out a customer engagement platform. And so everything we're trying to do with the team that I work with here is build out this platform where different types of users can come to the platform and interact with different things. And one of the reasons we do that is I think a lot of us, when we go to companies, when we start at companies, or even when we're in the companies, we realize that when it comes to customer engagement, our customer is getting bombarded. Multiple groups, multiple programs are talking to them at once. One of our leaders in the company loves to talk about how trying to be customer focused versus function out. And I think a lot of organizations are function out. And the best way to tell that, actually, I think, is if you go to a website and you look at the navigation, usually the navigation and the global header maps to the organizational structure. So I think it's really important to say, okay, in this role as a customer engagement person, how do you really coordinate all these different groups, all these different programs together? And so customer-led growth really requires, I believe, working in small teams first. And that, I believe that's really important because you can move faster and it's easier to get alignment. And alignment is extremely important in the company. We're talking about engagement and advocacy today, but it touches all different groups. It touches the product group, it touches support, it touches the partner team, it touches customer success. So, for example, in one of my previous lives, the small team really existed of a tight-knit cross-functional team that had one goal, and they were focused on that goal. And that goal could be, in that case, it was really trying to get people activated within the first 10 hours of the product. The other thing that customer-led growth requires is tight integration. So we partner with CrowdVicate. We have integrated, and I'll show you some of this down the road in a few minutes. We've integrated the CrowdVicate platform into our Khoros community platform. We're in the process of taking Bevy, which we use for events, and integrating that as well into our community platform. And then consistent KPIs. So being really clear on what are the critical KPIs you're trying to solve for, and make sure that there's multiple people in the organization that are focused on that. At HubSpot, almost everything we do goes back to the flywheel. So I think when you think about customer-led growth, it's really important to say, okay, the customer's in the middle, and that customer, a lot of us are in customer marketing or in product marketing, but really when we think about things, it touches the whole journey of the customer. And if you can make the customer part of that journey, it's really going to accelerate the ability to reach more people, to accelerate the growth of your programs. And when you look at the flywheel, I think it's really important to understand the customer goals at all points. Something that I like to talk about a lot is understanding the point of friction or outages. So what different parts of the journey, so let's just say onboarding is a great one, to really dissect that experience and understand, like, what are the outages? How do you quantify that? And then work with your cross-functional teams to address it. And then empower your ecosystem. So, and again, in the case of onboarding, it's a great opportunity for whether it's community champions, whether it's people in your referral program or your advocates, to all help with onboarding on your platform, on your customer engagement platform, or in your product. And the last thing is, we tend to look at analytics at the aggregate level, one and done over time. One and done meaning we look every quarterly or whatever. But one of the big themes that we try and do at HubSpot is really build out profiles based on persona and segments, and really understand what's moving the needle for those folks. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. So one of the biggest challenges in building a customer engagement platform or taking that focus is you have, again, as I said earlier, all these different programs working together. And so whether it's focus on alignment across teams, or whether it's technology, it really helps to say, okay, what are the different programs? Actually, it helps to start with what are the problems you're trying to solve first, and then say, what teams and what programs can you work with to solve that? This is just an example of some of the teams involved. The position that I have at HubSpot, I would say there's probably 50 or 60 people that are closely aligned with what we're trying to solve on our customer engagement platform. And it's really, really important to get alignment with them and work closely with them. And that takes a lot of work, right? So whether it's, referral programs, whether it's, something on the community, there might be somebody who's driving that, but again, coordinating across teams is extremely important. So now I'm going to show you some eye candy, but as I do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the coordination that's involved. So this is basically our community website. And what we've done is with CrowdVocate, we basically have embedded the advocacy experience into the website. Christine Garnett runs the program. She's in a different group from the team I'm on. So she and I work really closely to figure out, okay, how do we create a seamless experience for our advocates? And how do we create a seamless experience for community members? Again, the advocacy program resides in the community space. We also have alignment on metrics and in terms of things we're trying to solve. So for advocacy, obviously, looking at the raw number of advocates, here we have the number of challenges. You can see how many people are taking those challenges, what's the value, right? The lifetime value or the retention or the revenue created by those from those challenges or those individuals. There's also a customer success aspect here, right? So some of the programs might be, one of the challenges that she might be running, for example, is to build a referral program. That referral program might be managed by customer success. So again, the key takeaways here are seamless integration with the groups, alignment on metrics, and then most important from the customer experience and being customer first is taking these different touch points and creating a seamless experience. The next example here is something we just introduced called the dashboard. Think of this as your activity stream. So on the left-hand side, basically customers can subscribe to different discussions on the site. On the right-hand side, they can basically indicate who they want to follow. What's really important here in terms of working cross-functionally is same with the customer success team. What information should we put on the site that people might want to subscribe to? What information should we put on the site that people might want to subscribe to? And how do we make it available for them? Another example is products, like working with the product team. So when we look at discussions here, for example, we're really interested in who's subscribing to this, right? It's really valuable to feed back to the customer success team, who is subscribing, what companies they're at if you're in a B2B environment, and any other information that you can supplement with that. And the last example, just explicitly customer success. These are, and all of these screenshots are being run on the customer engagement program, customer engagement platform. And so, earlier I talked about how we embedded CrowdVocate. Then I talked about how we're working cross-functionally. And here's another example where these are customer success run webinars, and the reruns are played on the community itself. And we also have the actual events on Bevy. And so we're also integrating the Bevy experience. So again, alignment across teams, partnering with teams, and then rolling up to common metrics. Here's another example working with the Academy. So Khoros recently introduced groups, so they call them group hubs. So all our Academy, more and more of our Academy programs have study groups that individuals who have attended those can get together on this engagement platform and really help each other in terms of study groups. All of this goes back to the flywheel and really thinking about, okay, how do we make the customer in the middle? How do we be customer focused? How do we use that to accelerate the flywheel? We think about it in stages of activate. So how do we activate those users? Some of us might be in customer marketing, but again, I think there is a role for customer marketing, obviously, to help drive activation. There's adoption of the product, the adore. I was wrestling a little bit with an A for there, and then the advocacy. And then under that is the metrics for each of these. And again, this might seem like a lot of different metrics to track. And so I would recommend that maybe you try and narrow it down a little bit, but I just wanted to show what's possible. And there is a cross-functional team that owns these metrics. So again, if you look at activation, like onboarding, what's the time that it takes for people to complete the onboarding? A lot of times on this engagement platform, we looked at activation. What is the time it takes for somebody to activate? And if you put that in kind of community language, what's the time that somebody posts or replies? What's the time that somebody kudos, et cetera? You also want to look at the inactive people, support tickets created when they're stuck during the onboarding stage, et cetera. And then the bottom right-hand corner, something that's really near and dear to the customer success team is those customer health scores. And one thing about customer health scores is, one of the things that we're looking at down the road is taking behavior from this platform and integrating it into the customer health scores that the customer success team is looking at. Bottom right, left-hand corner, looking at lifetime value, cross-sell, upsell. I think that's pretty straightforward. And then advocacy and loyalty together, right? So the flywheel is a good framework for setting up your engagement programs. And then this is an example of how we're looking at what metrics we want to track. So when I think about it in sum, to summarize, really, be evolutionary, not revolutionary. What I mean by that is start simple. I've obviously thrown a lot out here today, and I'll definitely share the slides, but think about like one or two places that you can start when you want to work with your customer success team or your customer marketing team, et cetera. The next thing is, if you're customer focused and customer driven here, is think about your ecosystem. And what I mean by this is obviously you have customers and partners and developers, but some things that we don't do is really think about the different tiers or the different values of the customers. When I worked at American Express, we used to take our whole customer base, break them out into deciles and score them, and then figure out where we should focus first. Collect and analyze the data on a regular basis. So every day, we're looking at the metrics, and then constantly track your engagement, whether it's the framework I use or, use your kind of classic customer journey, figure out what parts, where the actual outages are, and figure out how you can refine that over time. And I keep saying you, but it's really not you, it's the team. So really thinking about the team. And then the connective tissue. I was recently asked about the community journey and how we look at things, but something like community or something like advocacy should definitely be embedded into the whole customer experience, right? So you can even think about how advocacy plays into your product and product usage down the road. So I've thrown a lot out of you here, so I can definitely answer questions when, later on. I'll share slides with you, but I think, if I was going to give you like the one ask for the day, I said it's really important to think evolutionary, not revolutionary. It's really important to start simple. So think about the one area that you can collaborate on, then think about the problem that you're trying to solve, and then think about how you're going to measure success and what the customer journey is during that process. So that's it. I say here, we'll take a few questions now, but I think the process is you could take a few questions after the next speaker. So thank you.
No, I think we'll get, thank you, Scott. This is great. And yeah, I think we'll take a question or two and then we'll move to Bianca.
Sure.
So I think the first question here that we have that is relevant from Chris Rollings. Thank you, Chris, for submitting that. And guys, please submit more questions. We won't answer everything now, but we'll definitely get back to you later on with responses. So I think, the question is, can you speak to how you measure customer marketing specific impact, which was actually going to be my question as well. So how do you actually track the ROI and all these activities? And then also each of these, are broad metrics. So kind of how do you coordinate everything with multiple teams? You also mentioned different teams kind of working this together. So what do you measure and how do you align between different teams to agree on the measurements and whatnot?
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're looking at revenue. And so the overall impact on revenue. And so we can take specific programs or initiatives and see and really benchmark that against a control group or people that are not part of that program, right? So everything comes down to those revenue dollars. And then, for specific programs, we look at, activation is really important. I think it's, a lot of times we talk about engagement, but, my learnings working, at Udacity and Coursera, which were more tech ed focused, and also, here working on the engagement side, is that activation is really important. Like what happens in those first 10 hours or the first 24 hours, and really drilling down on that. And then the last thing in terms of working cross-functionally, I think the key thing is, start simple. So can you get alignment on what's the business problem you're trying to solve? Like, is it, getting more people to, join a certain program? Is it to get people to upgrade or cross-sell? And then identify who would have skin in the game or who could help impact the outcome of that. And so when you sit down with those folks, you want to get aligned on the problem. You want to get aligned on like how you're going to measure success. And definitely, it sounds easier than it is. It's definitely, I'm just being transparent. It's definitely a challenge, but start simple. It could be simple as like community engagement, like community activation. It could be, we just launched a new campaign and figuring out, okay, who can I get involved early on in the process?
Cool. Next question here from Tatiana is at HubSpot. How do you collaborate between the PMMs, the product marketing managers, and the customer marketing managers, and also in your case, the community and engagement teams? Are these two teams, how do they work together specifically around advocacy, adoption, engagement, whatnot?
Yeah, it's hard to like address every use case, obviously, but I think one way to approach it, whether it's the engagement platform, community, or advocacy, is really the product marketing folks are going to help define what the personas or segments we're trying to go after or try to market to, right? And then with them, we can also prioritize. So, in our world, it might be developers, it might be RevOps leaders, it might be builders. However that's defined, we really rely on the product marketing team to prioritize that. And then we work with them on different programs. And in most, so in most companies, similar to HubSpot, is once that's defined, then, we're channels, we're platforms for them to be successful.
Right. Last question, and then we'll move to Bianca. And we have a lot more, so it's great. You could answer in the chat, or again, we'll answer while we're talking, or we'll take them later or respond later. The last one is, do you have a template, which I don't know if you have or you can share later on, but this is from Nicole, on how do you segment and score customers? So, I know that HubSpot is big on segmenting and creating different kind of activities to different types of customers. So how would you approach that whole notion of segmenting and scoring different types of customers?
Yeah. So, I think, again, starting at the persona or segment you want to go after, then getting alignment on what are the key activities, just like a customer health score, for example, right? So right. When you go, if you're using another product and you're using customer health scores, or you're basically defining and weighting what those different touch points are, or those different activities. And so, we basically are trying to do the same thing here at HubSpot. And obviously, whether you have multiple teams, it's really important to get agreement on what that is. So, I think of things as a pyramid too, right? So we tend to, as marketers in our loyalty programs, focus on the top of the pyramid, like the most valuable customers. And I usually use baseball analogies, but I won't use that here since we have such an international audience. But I really try and focus on the rising stars too. So you have one scoring system, just like for health scores, and then and you're gonna do a great job and focusing on the top of the pyramid, but then you want to figure out who, based on scoring, who has the propensity or probability to get to that next level over time. So.
Cool. And yeah, a lot of questions here. So either answer on the chat. I think we've just found the topic that we want to do a full workshop on with all these questions. But now we want to move on to Bianca, who's going to touch another topic within, the overall customer marketing framework, which is rolling out an advocacy program, an international program. You're on, Bianca. You muted.
Hey,
yeah.
I'm just getting my screen up and running, and then we'll go from there. Okay, perfect. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you, Gal and the Product Marketing Alliance for inviting me to join today's session. I'm really excited to be here and share some of my learnings with everyone as we rolled out our customer advocacy program globally. So I'll take you through some of the things that we realized that we needed to help us scale, and then at what point we got there, and some of the things that you might be able to implement as you go through your own programs as well. So like I said, I'll do a little introduction, the reasons that we decided that we needed to scale our program, some of the tips that you can take away, and then I will leave you with some questions that you can ask your customers that'll help you think about your own programs too. So I will formally introduce myself. My name is Bianca Del Vecchio. I'm a Senior Customer Advocacy Manager at D2L, and I'm part of the Customer Marketing team. So I will be presenting from that perspective today as an advocacy manager, some of the things that went into us launching, or rather, I should say, relaunching our program, working with Gal and the team at CrowdVK. So I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I've been in customer advocacy for 5 years now, in tech and specifically in ed tech for the last 2 years. And I would say my favorite part about customer marketing is having that opportunity to work directly with our advocates and share their stories and their successes. So for those who may not be familiar with D2L, that's the company that I work at. It's a Canadian company headquartered in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, which is just outside of Toronto, but it is a global company and we have customers all over the world. And we are really transforming the way that the world learns. So from K-12 to higher education institutions to corporate organizations and associations, the Brightspace platform, which is our learning management platform, it supports millions of people all over the world learning in person and online. And we actually just launched a brand new product earlier this year called D2L Wave, which is a brand new approach to professional development. And it makes it really easy for employees to gain access to high quality education for their own professional development. So we're really excited about that. And I hope that gives you some context as to the types of customers that I work with as a customer advocacy manager here at D2L. So what I really want to talk to you about and bring you up to speed on is our customer advocacy program and our mission. So our mission as an advocacy team at D2L is really to recognize and highlight our clients' work and partner with our most innovative customers to share their stories and really celebrate the impact that they have. So we work with advocates to find opportunities for them to share, whether that's a blog post or a speaking opportunity or a case study or a webinar. There's many different ways that we engage with our clients. And this is all under what we call the D2L Champions program. So when champions complete activities, they can earn points towards rewards and experiences. And we've worked with Gal over the last year to really bring that experience into CrowdVK because we needed a way for our small but mighty team to better engage with the advocates that we had. So in 2020, our Champions program was in its third year, and our team knew that we had gotten it to a point where we really needed to scale our efforts. And these were some of the things that really stood out to us. And you may be experiencing them, or maybe you have experienced them and you've already started down that path. But these were really the signs that we needed to take a step to bring our program to the next level. So the first piece there was just too many manual processes. So this might strike a chord with you. We were managing the program through our inboxes, through spreadsheets. We were spending a lot of time on the administrative part of the program. Anytime somebody needed a testimonial or they needed a speaker for an event, we would start the same process of reaching out to see who was available and who might be interested without really knowing who might be interested in putting their hand up for that specific activity. So it ended up being a lot of time spent on that part of the program and not as much time spent on growing it or being strategic with the types of clients we were working with or the activities that we were putting out. We also wanted to create a really seamless experience for our advocates. So rather than hearing from us, reach out to their inbox every couple of weeks asking, we wanted to make sure that they could engage with the Champions program in a way that felt like it was a positive experience that was really designed for them. The second thing that we started realizing as well is that we were starting to rely on a lot of the same advocates. We knew they were open to partnering with us, which was fantastic, and we love working with them, but we also wanted to avoid customer fatigue. And we didn't have an easy way to reach new advocates. So we knew they were out there, but we didn't have that connection to them and we didn't have a way to reach out. So that's something else that we really realized that we needed a solution for. And then the third piece as well was just a lack of data when it came to our reporting. This was a really big piece for our team. We wanted to better understand who our advocates were, as well as the impact that those activities were having on the business, without having to go and build new reports every time someone asked for them, or chasing down sales teams and asking which customer stories they had been using or which clients had been taking sales calls. So for us, this was really the piece that was going to pull it all together to make sure that we had a really comprehensive understanding of what was happening within the Champions program. And like I said, how that was impacting the business. So what did we do? We knew we had grown the program to a point that we needed a tool to help us scale. So in April of this year, we relaunched the Champions program in the CrowdVocate platform. And along the way, we learned some things that I really want to pass on today. And some of these themes were touched on in the previous presentation as well. So you'll hear some familiar things that you can take away as you start thinking about your own program, maybe taking your own program to the next level. So the first piece is really around talking to your customers. The program is ultimately going to be for them, so include them as early as you can. We really did this as we were starting to get our program off the ground to understand what types of activities our advocates were interested in participating in, but also some of the things that they wanted to see out of the program as well. So for example, we asked our clients what types of rewards or things that they'd like to see as a way for us to say thank you to them. And it wasn't things like swag or gift cards, though we do offer those as well, and they're popular with our champions. But some of our clients really wanted to see a way to give back. They were really interested in making a charitable donation with some of the points they had earned. So that was something that stood out to us that we didn't necessarily think about, but was something that a number of our champions echoed back to us. So really would recommend speaking with your customers as you start putting together what this is going to potentially look like for your organization. The next piece is define partners in your organization. So this could be product marketing, it could be your community team, sales enablement, or customer success or marketing, depending on where you sit within your organization. But advocacy really impacts so many areas and supports so many different teams' goals within the business. And the more people who can benefit from automating those programs and processes, the stronger the business case that you'll make for having the program will be. So really recommend reaching out to different teams and finding stakeholders across the business who you can take along with you on the journey. The third thing is give yourself room to grow. So don't let an overly ambitious plan hold you back from launching your program. Think long-term about the things that you really want to do and then break it out into phases. So whether that's growing your advocate base or increasing engagement in one specific market before you roll out to other ones, the important thing is to start. So definitely don't feel like you need to have it all figured out before you can launch. Start in small steps, and then along the way, you can continue to grow your program and the types of things that you offer to your clients. And then the fourth piece I want to talk about is considering your global market. So when you're thinking about a global advocacy program and what that really means, there's a lot of things to think about. So when we launched our program in April, we focused exclusively on our North American market. And we spent the next few months after that point getting ready to launch globally. So we had our user conference in July, and that's when we opened up the program and we started talking about it in other markets. We really needed to take those extra couple of months to make sure that we were ready. And we wanted to roll it out to those champions within the North American market that we knew could start participating right away. So a couple of things that you'll want to think of as you start looking at expanding programs globally or beyond whatever market they're in now is to really focus on where you want to target, either from a country or a market or geography perspective, and figure out who it is you want to bring into the program, because you'll need to consider things like localization. So we chose English, Portuguese, and Spanish, but the program is available globally. So those are the different languages that we chose, but we had to go and make sure that all of our content and all of our terms and conditions, all of our rewards, everything that was available could be available in those languages. So we took the time to make sure that was available to our customers. The second thing I'll say as well is to consider who your contacts will be in those different markets. It's really important to have stakeholders regionally that can answer questions from your customers and can really champion it as well. So make sure that you connect with whether you have regional marketing managers or regional customer success managers, and have a team that really can work together to make sure that the experience is positive for customers, regardless of where they're engaging with your program. And then finally, as well, when you're thinking internationally as well, a really big piece of that is rewards if you choose to offer that to your customers. So something that we came across was the dollar value of different rewards. So something that might be appropriate in one market may not be in another. So that's definitely something to consider and consult with your local teams on. And another piece as well is whether or not you want to offer physical items. So for example, we do offer swag as part of our program, but that right now is only being offered to our champions in the North American market, just because of shipping costs and things like that. So in our other markets, we have virtual rewards like gift cards and services that our organization offers to our customers as well. So with that, I want to leave you with something that you can take back as you start thinking about, whatever stage you're at in your own customer advocacy program right now, whether it's something that you want to roll out but you haven't started, or maybe you're already on that journey. Maybe you've already launched. There's always an opportunity for you to speak with your customers and just get a pulse on how they're feeling about the program, what their thoughts, what their feedback is. That information is invaluable as you're managing your program. So these are actually 3 questions that I took to one of our customer advisory boards last year. So I joined one of our meetings, and I had a chance to speak with a handful of our customers and really understand what it was that they were looking for from a customer advocacy program. So the first thing I wanted to understand was, how did they want us to engage with them? What was really important for us when it came to speaking with them and offering them these types of benefits like a customer advocacy program? The second thing was around the activities they were most interested in, whether that is speaking engagements or opportunities to connect with executives from our organization, anything that we could offer to them that was really aligning with what their own goals were, either as an individual professional or as an organization. This was really important for us to understand as well. And then again, what can we offer you as part of the program? And that's where that piece about the charitable donations came in. So that was something that we were able to take away and figure out how to implement for them so that we could show that we were listening to the feedback that they were sharing. So whenever you get an opportunity, whether that's with a one-on-one call that you may have with the customer, or if it is at something like a customer advisory board, or if it's something, that you set up for the specific purpose of getting this feedback, I really encourage you to check in with your customers whenever you can, and that'll make sure that the program is fresh and what you're offering is really resonating with your customers. So thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now or get back to you after the webinar as well.
Yeah, so you'll have to get back to some of them after the webinar, but let's try to take 1 or 2. So one here is from Lance. What were the first 2 or 3 things that you decided to focus on when you began your program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we really wanted to do is we wanted to focus on building a really strong base of champions within our program and making sure that the engagement was there. So previously, before we brought everybody into the new CrowdVicate platform, we had a list of people that were champions, had raised their hand at some point, but we really had no way of knowing if they were still active, interested, if they were still even at that organization. So one of the first things we really wanted to do was bring our existing base in. And because it was connected to Salesforce, we could really understand who was still active. So from there, it was, building that base, getting the engagement up, and then focusing on a few key things that our organization was looking to do. So increase the number of success stories that we had, worked to get customers leaving reviews on external review sites. That was something that we were focusing on as well. And then also just understanding the types of activities that our champions were interested in participating in. So for us, we really want to make sure that the ones who were participating from day one felt heard and acknowledged, and that we were offering them a program that was something that was really going to resonate with them, like I had said before.
Cool. And then I think a follow-up question on that is from Alicia, is how did you make the case or prove the ROI for investing in, customer advocacy?
Yeah, that's a great question. We did a really deep exercise and we consulted with people all across the business and really outlined all the different things that our team was doing and what the benefit would be to automating that process. So a lot of the time that was spent on some of those manual things I had talked about before, we really built out like how much time we were spending on those activities. And if we could automate those, what we could spend our time on and the other types of strategic activities that we could invest our team's resources in. So we were able to really tell that story. And again, we partnered with people all across the organization. We made sure that we had input from sales enablement, from product marketing, from customer success, so that they really saw the vision and that they were, we brought them along for the journey as well. So when we made the business case, it wasn't just our team asking for a customer advocacy solution. It was our team who was almost taking the lead on this and then showing how the benefit was going to impact other teams in the organization as well.
Okay, and the last question for you, which sometimes we get familiar with, is what do you do when your organization has a no gifting policy or some of your customers have a no gifting policy? How do you overcome that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And sometimes it's even like a dollar value that we've seen that they can't accept things over a dollar value. So it's something that we've been thinking about. Of course, if somebody can't accept something, we remind them to make sure that they're able to follow those, company guidelines, so to speak, that they're, if they're not able to participate, then we don't want them to get in trouble for participating. But we're also trying to think of other ways that we can connect our clients to something that could be considered a reward. So maybe there's an executive within your organization or somebody that they would love to just get some face time with, offering things like that, where it doesn't necessarily have a dollar value, but it's something that they can use and they can either have that advisory time or just time to network. It's something that we're looking to do more of, but that's the direction that we would consider heading in.
Cool. So thank you very much, Bianca. Again, a lot of other questions there for you, and answer them if you can. And everybody, great panel. We love this. Keep the questions in. We'll try to answer in the chat. We'll also send all the chat questions and answers later on, but we want to move on to the next session. So now it's my turn. Let me share my screen. Here we go. So next thing up, we want to talk about reference management at scale, right? And how do companies streamline referenceabilities in a way that you could increase member recruitment and maybe run multiple programs to different audiences. And of course, getting into internal collaboration for everything that you want to do in alignment. So, I mean, let's start with the headache, with the challenges, right? I mean, what's so problematic about reference programs? First thing is, finding those advocates, finding the candidates who can be an advocate, who can take a reference call, who can, how do you nominate them? How do you get their consent? How do you activate them to actually take the call or whatnot? And I'll talk mainly about reference calls, but I'll also relate to reference customer stories, content, videos, quotes, reviews, talking to analysts, et cetera, et cetera. So everything around referenceability. Then what's the internal process, right? Like, who needs to approve this or them? Or how do we track it? Stuff like that. And then how do we make sure that we're using the right kind of customer for the right kind of reference call, or the right kind of customer for this PR or for this analyst or whatnot, or for this event speaking opportunity. And last thing, is how do we measure the whole thing? How do we know that it happened? How do we know results? How do we get some feedback on that? Was the call good? Was the speaking good? Did we get leads from that? Did the deal close, etc.? So a lot of challenges there. And add on those things that you want to avoid with your customers. So think about how do you protect them? How do you not overuse the same customer? Hey, this week take a reference call, next week do event speaking, and then the week after that, can you write a story? I mean, they have a job. Or how do you not misuse them, right? You maybe take a startup to speak in an event where everybody's enterprise customers. That doesn't work. Or take a reference call with an enterprise company. How do you make sure that you don't forget to acknowledge your customers for their contribution? That's very important, one way or another. There's always a way to acknowledge them. Even an email from the CEO, that's to the question about not giving a rewards. So an email from a CEO or from a VP saying thank you, that's acknowledgement. Having them choose charity that they want to contribute to, that's acknowledgement. You can always give them a gift card, a nice package and whatnot as well. And then make sure that you're using the ones that did say yes. A bit of education here, but we'll run through this fast. A lot of times, this is specifically for reference call. This is from Gong. For those who know Gong, that they do kind of revenue optimization and call tracking and whatnot. Gong Labs, they checked and look, this is crazy. This is kind of, counterintuitive. Not using a social proof or reference in the first call is better for closing than using it. That doesn't make any sense, does it? And the reason is that a lot of times it's really misused by sales teams. And this is, sales teams are great. It's just talking about the best practice. So basically what you see a lot of times, sales use the best reference that they know. Either it's a great brand, hey, we work with Google or Microsoft or HubSpot. Or they just use, somebody that is their customer and they know them for 2 years or 3 years now, and they can kind of reuse them again and again. What's wrong about that? If you're not matching between a reference request or between the audience of a session or between, people that you think are going to read this customer story as part of, a specific use case or product, and the people who are taking the reference call, doing the session, whatnot, you're losing context. So for reference calls, it's classic. If you don't have people from the same industry, the same use case, same problem, same product, same geo, Spanish people want to speak with Spanish people, right? Or Canadians want to speak with Canadians, whatever. I mean, you want to make sure that you have the right kind of match there. And a lot of times, like we said, sales would just take the most known, the shiny object, Google or somebody they know. So let's start about how you solve all that and scale it. First of all, you have to start with a strategy. Put aside, platforms and whatnot. Just talk about what is the program's KPI for the first year. What do you want to make sure that you achieve? And that's also how you're going to get management buy-in, because you're going to agree with them on the goals and the numbers, numeric KPIs. Then who are the people that need to be part of this reference program when we scale it? Because there's going to be a lot of things moving here. How do we make sure that marketing or sales or customer success or product teams or, are involved in who's our executive sponsor for all of this? Let's talk to customers. Let's first see what's what are they happy to participate with? What do they think would work before we roll out, before we do anything? And of course, how do we measure success at the end? And when we talk about references specifically and streamlining and scaling referenceability, this is kind of the framework you want to look at. And also this would be my homework to you. We'll send also the recording, but you could look at this and kind of think, okay, how do I do this in my company? So, first strategy, what are the programs? Do I just need reference calls for sales? Do I also need speaking opportunities for marketing or product marketing? Do I need customer stories and from who? Some companies would say, we only want videos from these 3 product lines or these 3 segments because the rest are less important. Or for reference calls, we only want VPs, or we only want enterprise customers. Or if it's not an enterprise customer and not a VP, it's great, but then nobody needs to approve it because it's, we have much more SMB customers and it's a more streamlined process. So think about what are your programs? Which are your audiences that you're going to use in customer audience in those programs? Then how do you recruit members, right? Is it, personal invite? Who does that? Is this program going to be self-serve? Do sales just look up for referenceable customers and content themselves, or somebody's going to help them? It's a managed program. Is this just for calls, for content, like we said, different activities? And how do we recognize the work and reward the customers? Then once you have in mind your strategy, then you want to align with others, right? You want to talk to customer success and sales and product marketing and marketing itself, and of course, IT, and think about, get their approval, their buy-in for all these processes. Then you want to talk about, okay, who's nominating and how do we need to approve nominations? Who needs to approve a reference call? Like if the customer is in the red, right? Do we need customer success to approve it? How do we do that? What's the timeline on getting and answering reference requests? Who's owning the process and what's in it for them? What's in it for CS? Why is it good for them to collaborate? What's in it for sales? Of course, they want the references. What's in it for marketing? They want content. Not sure what's in it for IT, but anyway, and then you implement. So then next step would be, okay, let's talk about workflows. Let's talk about, how do we recruit them in different channels? Let's talk about the program design and branding. Bianca, I don't think touched that too much, but they have an amazing program design branding. Scott showed his as well. And then integration, how do we integrate to different places? How do we integrate to CRM? Testing, and the last step is launch, right? So how do we train internal people to use the systems or to leverage referenceability and to nominate? How do we, launch it externally, and how do we incentivize, for example, with nominations, sales to nominate or CS to nominate? These are different things you could look at. So from, creating a workflow for reference calls versus a workflow, for a customer story, those would be different. And you get to think that through and get internal people to align on that. Getting approvals, right, from the account owner or the CSM to say, yes, my customer is okay to take the call now. How do you manage that process at scale? Right? Then you want to see, how do you reach out to customers at scale? And Scott showed a few of doing it in the community and other places, but really being able to reach out to customers. If you need a reference call, it's now. If you need somebody to be on your quarterly earning report or on a PR or talking to an analyst, normally they don't give you like, hey, we need it in 3 months' time. It's now. We need a reference call this week, next week. We need a customer, to get on a PR or earning call or whatever, talk to an analyst next week. Sadly, nobody plans in advance. So, I mean, you got to really make sure that you have quick ways to reach out to customers real time, in-app, in community, email, text, whatever, and scale it through. And then connect all the data into CRM to help you just show everybody can know who's referenceable. Ideally, everybody can know if they can take the call. Everybody can see who's the best match for this analyst or for this reference call or whatnot. Not diving too much into that, but really being able to scale those things and track them. I'm just aware of time. So, I mean, at the end, you want to make sure this goes to buying and collaboration. The data is where your internal people are as well. If your sales uses Salesforce or HubSpot CRM, it has to be where they are as sales. CS use a different platform, it should be where they are. You don't want to take people to different, same way that you don't want customers to run around and try to engage you in awkward ways. They should engage wherever they are anyway in their existing touch points. Sales and CS and product marketers should engage in their existing touch points as well. That's very important to make it successful. And then again, we talked about different things like, rewards, and rewards could be, for example, access to your annual event, right? Or different types of recognition. It doesn't have to be always gift cards and monetary. And last thing would be tracking. So really looking at how do we then attribute this whole thing? How do we know how many sales reference calls have we supported and how much revenue did that generate? How many quotes were used in different deals? Reviews. We send so many people to do reviews. Is anybody tracking how many leads are coming from G2 or Gartner and how much of those are converting into deals? Does anybody track referrals from customers? And how many of those have converted into deals? You want to be able to show all that because that's the ROI to your program. And yeah, I'll end with what I started with. Think about if you're thinking of scaling referenceability, building kind of these 4 buckets before you roll it out. And then, how do you do it? That's, the first session. And because I just know that we have like 5 minutes, I'm going to run through the second one and maybe have a few Q&A. Sorry for doing this so quick. So second thing is, and it kind of relates to that, is how do you make it strategic? And again, it relates to what we showed earlier, but I think becoming strategic is really what we've learned is really agreeing with internal stakeholders about the metrics and the ROI. If you care about how many advocates you have, but your CEO cares about how much money they helped influence, then that's what he or she cares about. If you care about how much events they participate in, which is great and important, but your CMO cares about from those events, how many people have become then new customers or upsell. That's the metric you need to track. So that it's very important to do that. So first of all, think in these buckets with your company. Think like, is my role in the first year or with this program to influence new sales, right? What we call acquisition. So with referrals and references and reference calls and reviews and success stories, I'm going to help more deals close faster, right? And I'm going to influence new sales pipeline. Maybe my job is to help upsell and expansion. That's maybe more product marketing teams as well. How can I help with advocates and with advocacy programs and engagement influence lifecycle marketing and upsell? And maybe we want to track and show that customers who are in the advocacy program, accounts who are engaged, also retain better. And we're influencing loyalty marketing and retention. And when you agree on what your program is, then you can kind of start talking about different things such as, okay, so do we track engagement and influence on lifetime value? We want to track individuals versus companies and show both of those. So a company can provide, help with 3 reference calls, but an individual did 1, or a company can provide 8 pieces of content that 5 of them are helping you bring new customers and whatnot, and really track everything here and really agree on, your KPIs there, and always think what's in it for them. This is what's in it for me, so it should be what's in it for them. What's in it for the product marketing? What's in it for the CMO? What's in it for CS? Because that, like for CS, hey, they want to do renewal, so they want to see how engagement influences growth and retention. Product marketing want to see how content influences better, product messaging and more people going through their funnels and whatnot, for example. And then you just use, again, different touch points of data, knowing better your customers and advocates. And again, sell it always, what's in it for me, for each one of them. Why would product marketing and product teams want to know more about each user? Because it helps them better understand their journeys. Why would CS want to know more about their user journeys and engagement? And build that story, always what's in it for them. That's how you get buy-in. Upsell is always important in expansion, same thing. Build the story of how you it's always about how you're contributing and collaborating with their existing programs, how you're helping them achieve their goals. Why is this important for them and for the company? Not why, advocacy is important in general. What's in it for them? It's always like that. And I'll end with this. If you want to create a culture of advocacy, if you want to get buy-in and you want to become strategic, first you have to educate, the why. Why are we doing this? What are we doing and how are we doing it? And really think about company goals. Why is it important for us as a company? Then talk about, we talked about collaboration a lot. Like, how do you get all the different teams? You have a champion. Find somebody in that team who's your internal sponsor, aside from an internal sponsor for marketing, from sales, from CS, and they should help you push it in their own teams. Create a playbook for them, right? Like something like, hey, when you do a nomination, this is, expect to nominate today, expect to get a response in 2 weeks, and we'll expect to tell your customer that they even got a reward because they participated then. Like, make it very simple and consumable for other teams to participate. Talk to customers and then make sure that their voice is everywhere. Have even a customer advisory board for every department. Product customer advisory board, marketing customer advisory board, CS customer advisory board. Those will help them with their metrics internally, and put product feedback, customer feedback everywhere, in your company, in your social posts, in just internally always push the message of the customers to your internal stakeholders. Just measure and blow both your horn and your supporters' horn. If somebody helped you get a nomination and that nomination became a reference and that reference closed the deal, make sure that everybody know that that person was awesome and did it. Because then he's going to do it or she's going to do it again, and others are going to follow. If somebody helped you, CS helped you find the best speaker for the event, and that event was awesome, again, thank CS for that. Make sure that you're not just thanking the customer, but also contributors. With that, I will end. We're exactly at time, I think, or we have a minute left. So first of all, thank you everybody for participating, I guess. I stop share here. I'll try to answer a few questions that we have. Sorry. Yeah. So happy to stay over myself. I don't know if Bianca and Scott can stay a bit over, answer a few more questions. Again, we have everything in the chat. I'll try to answer whatever I could now. And yeah, I mean, if you can stay, and we'll answer questions for 10 more minutes. Otherwise, we'll just reach out to all the questions later on. Thank you for participating if you have to leave. Thank you again, Bianca and Scott, for the content and sharing your knowledge. Thank you for the Product Marketing Alliance. And again, we'll just take some questions for those who can stay with us. Questions could be for myself, for Bianca, or for Scott if they're staying. Can you stay, Bianca and Scott?
I do need to jump off, but I said in the chat, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to continue the conversation.
Same here. So I'll put my email address, and so people either on LinkedIn or can reach out to me.
Cool. I'll try to answer 2 or more questions. My email was, I'll put my email here as well, and we'll answer everybody. So thank you again for those who stayed. Thank you, Bianca and Scott.
Bye.
Okay, so questions quickly. Let me see if I can take a few more questions here. Right. Could CrowdVocate integrate with something like Slack? Yes, the answer is yes, but I don't want to talk just about us. Let's see if there's anything else here. What is your advice for to campaign to deal with their legacy reference system? So for legacy reference systems, ideally, what you want to do is really be able to, I would say, dump the data, so put it into a spreadsheet or whatnot. Try to organize it. A lot of times we see companies having a bit in spreadsheet and a bit in a legacy system and a bit somewhere else. And then, basically, when you have all that, you put it in one spreadsheet, you organize it, these people on these dates, and maybe if somebody gave a customer story or a reference 25 years ago, I'm going extreme, you don't want to use that. But if somebody did it in the last 2 years, you definitely want to have them in the program. So, just organize everything in one spreadsheet, see how old that data is, and is it still relevant and referenceable, or that person is. And then just when you have all that, you bring it up again to the new system that you have. That would be a good way to I think, manage legacy. Other things here that we have is, I don't know, I'm trying to see if there's questions for me. Questions need to read through. I see 6,000 assets. Hi, Julian. 58,000 customers. Yeah, you're right. Bigger companies with bigger programs have a lot of assets and a lot of customers to upload. But at the end of the day, it is doable. I'm happy always to take these things offline. But even 6,000 assets, even we've done thousands of assets, okay, and even 58,000 customers for sure. Legacy should just be managed as a project, but it's very doable. Other questions that we might have here, I don't know. I'm trying to see if there's anything from me specifically. Okay, I don't think I see anything. I can answer other questions that came up for Scott. And Bianca, if I see anything up, and if not, we'll just close the session. Yeah, a lot of questions. So I think one of the questions that came up is about integrations. I would talk about integrations for a second. Again, it doesn't really matter. Each platform has its integration, but you just want to collaborate with IT and with the vendor, whoever that is, and try to understand, okay, what's important. You don't have to kind of get everything right first. Salesforce is most important. Okay, there's, most companies, CrowdVocate definitely has a Salesforce app. Get the guide, make sure that IT is okay with the app. They can install it in testing and whatnot. And that's one integration. Chorus or integrating into a community is another thing. Does that have to be in day one? Maybe yes, maybe no. If it has to be in day one, okay, let's talk to that team and see what it takes. I would kind of map all the integrations you want to have visionary, like all the touch points, all the different things you want to do, and then basically say, okay, within these integrations, what's most important? Because it's always important to launch as fast as possible. Integrations sometimes take time, and get initial value, right? Agree on what we want to see in the first 3 months. What's going to happen then? And then what are other integrations and touch points and elements we're adding to the customer journey, to the customer buy-in, and then how do we add more systems and integration? So I think that would be about integrations. But I would also answer there, trying to see if there's anything here else to talk about. I don't think so. There's a lot of questions, but I can find something just for me. If anybody wants to write something in the chat for me right now, happy to answer. If not, again, thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. all the Slack comments are going to be posted later. The recording is going to be shared later. And we definitely appreciate your time and coming through this session. Yeah, it was recorded. It will be available to watch. So thank you very much, everybody. And come tomorrow to the full day in the sessions. Enjoy your day and goodbye.